Welcome to the yet another session of Introduction and Analysis of Plane Trusses, that is Module 1 of Analysis of Determinate Structures. That is, it is the fifth session on Module 1. So, the contents of today's session are, so in the last session we have discussed about the kinematic indeterminacies of structural system, that is how to find whether the given structure is kinematically determinate or indeterminate, and also how to find the degree of kinematic indeterminacies including the degrees of freedom. Okay, so in this session we are going to discuss about the trusses and the commonly used member sections to build up a truss section, and the types of trusses, assumptions made in the analysis of trusses, and also the different methods of analysis available. Okay, so for your syllabus there are two different methods, so we will discuss when we go to that stage. Okay, so truss, what do you mean by a truss? A framework composed of members joined at their ends to form a rigid structure. Okay, it is a framework composed of members, so members are joined in such a way that the ends of the members are joined. Okay, so they will not be joined at in between. Okay, only the ends will be joined to form a rigid structure. Okay, we can also define a truss like this. A truss is a structure in which members are arranged in such a way that they are subjected to axial loads only. Okay, so the members of a truss are arranged, that means they are placed in such a way that they will be only subjected to axial loads. So the members of truss are only subjected to axial loads. They will not be subjected to any shear force or bending moment. Okay, so if you take example of this roof truss. Okay, so trusses are mainly used in roofs as well as in bridges. Okay, so if you take an example of a roof truss, okay, so this is called as truss. Okay, so another truss is here. Okay, so over which two purlins will be connecting the two trusses. Okay, over which the roofing material will be laid. Okay, so if you take this cross section, okay, so this may be a different view, different pattern of a truss. Okay, so these individual elements are called as members of a truss. Okay, they are called as members of a truss, and this is the joint. Okay, so these are the joints of a truss. Okay, supports, not joints. These are called supports of a truss. Okay, so this one is support, another one is here. Okay, and the places where the members are connected, they are called as joints. Okay, so they are called as joints. These are all called as joints of a truss. So here also you can take this one, this, they are all called as joints of a truss. Okay, so the joints may be welded, riveted, bolted, pinned, or pinned to the gusset plate. Okay, so the members of a truss, they may be either welded at this joint, or they may be riveted, or they may be bolted, or they may be pinned. How they are going to pin? How they are going to join? So with the help of a gusset plate. Okay, so if you consider this joint and if you zoom it up, okay, so this will be the connection pattern. Okay, so these are the horizontal members. So this one is a horizontal member and this one is again a horizontal member. Okay, and then these two are inclined members. We have one more vertical member is there. Okay, so these are the inclined members. Okay, so you can observe these members are joined, okay, using a gusset plate. A plate is here, okay, over which these members are, they may be either bolted, they may be either pinned or riveted or welded, anything. Okay, so they will be connected to a gusset plate. This plate is called as a gusset plate. Okay, So that is how the members of a truss are going to join. Okay. A plain truss. So in your syllabus we have got plain truss. So what do you mean by plain truss means? So all these members will lie in a single plane. That means they lie in a xy plane. So if this becomes a three-dimensional structure, and if you take idealize only this structure, so this becomes a two-dimensional structure. So then hence it is called as a plain truss. Okay. So truss lying in a single plane, it is called as a plain truss. Okay. So the basic elements of a plain truss is a triangle. So you can observe here the members are arranged in such a way that they form a triangle. So here also we have a triangle, one more triangle, another triangle. So basically the structure will be composing of triangles. So basic elements of a plain truss will be a triangle. Okay, here also you can observe the element is a triangle. Okay, and then it may be made up of wooden struts. So these elements may be made up of wooden struts, metal bars, angles or channels. So normally the trusses will be made up of either wooden or steel. So wooden trusses are usually used for roof truss, that too for a smaller span, whereas steel trusses are used for longer spans, both for roof trusses as well as for bridge truss or bridge girders. Okay, used as girders in the bridges and as well as truss in the roofs. Okay, so next we'll go for the commonly used member sections. What are the different types of members? Okay, so that are used as different types of sections that are used as members of a truss. Okay, so here is some of the figures. So this is an angle section. Okay, so angle section may be used for a as a member for a truss. This is a channel section. Okay, so here is a T section, this is an I section. Okay, and here we have two angles placed back to back, and here two channel sections are placed back to back, and here two channel sections are placed apart again, along with one more I section will be here. Okay, and then this may be tubular sections, circular tubular section, rectangular tubular section or square tubular section. Okay, I section again, the channel sections are placed in front, whereas here they are placed back to back. So here they are placed in the opposite way. Okay, so this is a fabricated I section. So plates are used to make an I section. So this is one more type of built up section. Okay, so these are built up sections. So these two are also examples of built up sections which are mainly used as girder sections for a bridge. Okay, so here this is a I section. Okay, so apart from that we are going to place angles. These are unequal angles. Okay, so equal angle means both legs of the angle will have same length. So this length and this length will be same, whereas here this is smaller when compared to this one. Okay, so this is called as web plate and these are called as flanges. Okay, so this individual elements are connected to make one member, so that is called as built up section. Okay, so here also this is one more type of built up section. Okay, angles are placed here. Okay, so they are called as cleat angles. Okay, plates are used. Okay, two plates, one at the bottom, one top. Okay, again to support them we have cleat angles. Okay, so this is one more type of built up section. Okay, so depending upon the span load which it has to carry, so the members can be the different members can be used. Okay, so normally these are used as girder members for bridges, and these can be used as truss elements. Okay, next, how a truss is going to be supported. Normally the truss will be supported at one end as hinged and the other end on the roller. Okay, one end will be at the hinge and the other end is at the roller. Okay, so why one end has to be on the roller? Why it can't be on the why it can't be both ends hinged? If you ask like that, okay. So one end will be roller. Roller means it is free to slide. Okay. Why it has given some accommodation to slide means because we can observe that normally the trusses are made of steel sections to accommodate the deformations due to temperature changes and the applied loads, mainly temperature changes. Okay, when the temperature changes, definitely the steel section is going to elongate. Okay, so you have I think you might have observed that in a railway track, when when the railway tracks are placed at the two rails, so there will be small gap will be there. So the same thing is here also. A roller is provided so that there is a accommodation for free expansion. So as the temperature increases, the members will be expanding. Okay, so to accommodate that expansion or that deformation, one end is provided as a roller. Okay, so next we will move to the types of trusses. So depending upon the analysis, we are going to classify the trusses as perfect truss and imperfect truss. Okay, so imperfect truss is further divided into deficient truss and redundant truss. Okay, so how we can classify or how we can define a perfect truss means a truss is said to be perfect if number of members is equal to 2j minus 3, that is m is exactly equal to 2j minus 3. Okay, so the requirement is 2j minus 3 and the provided number of members is also equal to the same numbers, then it is called as a perfect truss. So let us take an example. So here is an example of a truss. So the number of members is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members are there, and the joints 1, 2, 3, 4 joints are there. Okay, so 2 4s are 8, 8 minus 3 is 5. So 5 is the requirement and the provided number of members is also 5. Hence this is a perfect truss. Okay, so perfect truss does not collapse under loading. So this truss will not collapse. That means not only this one, all the perfect trusses will not collapse under the loading, and it is stable and statically determinate. So we have already found how to find the static determinacy of a truss. Okay, so when m is exactly equal to 2j minus 3, we can find member forces in all the members, hence it becomes a determinate structure. Okay, and when m is equal to 2j minus 3, it is a stable structure as well. Okay, so therefore this will not collapse under loading. Okay, and imperfect truss. A truss is said to be imperfect if number of members is not equal to 2j minus 3. Okay, so that is m is not equal to 2j minus 3. Not equal to means what? Either m is greater than 2j minus 3 or it may be less than 2j minus 3, but it will not be exactly equal to 2j minus 3. If it becomes exactly equal, then it becomes a perfect truss. Okay, so then a truss is, we have two different types of imperfect trusses, that is deficient and redundant. So let us take a look at the deficient truss. A truss is said to be deficient if it has less members than the required. Okay, if the number of members in a truss is less than the requirement is 2j minus 3, so then it is called as a deficient truss. Okay, so let us take the same example. If we remove this member, okay, so total number of members will be 4. Okay, and joints are also 4. So 2 4s are 8, 8 minus 3 is 5. So number of members required is 5, but provided is 4. Okay, hence it is a deficient truss. Okay, so it is deficient means what? Lagging, lesser. Okay, so this number of members is less than the requirement, hence it is a deficient truss. Okay, So as it is less than 2j minus 3, we can find member forces in all the members. Therefore, it is a determinate structure. It becomes a determinate structure. But as members are less than the requirement, it becomes an unstable structure. So here we can see number of members is less than 2j minus 3. Okay, so number of members provided are 4 and the requirement is 5. Hence, M is less than 2j minus 3. So this is unstable as M requirement is provided is less than requirement, hence it is a unstable. Okay, hence it is unstable, but we can determine the member forces, but it is determinate. Okay, statically determinate. As it is unstable means it will collapse under the loading. That is the meaning. Okay, next we'll move to the redundant truss. Okay, a truss is said to be redundant if it has more members than required. Okay, so let us take the same example. So wherein we have got two cross members. Okay, so the requirement is 2j minus 3 and now we will count the number of provided members. So here this is not a joint, only the members are crossing each other. Okay, so then the members are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members are there and joints are 4. Okay, so 2j minus 3, 2 4s are 8, minus 3 is 5, requirement is 5 but provided is 6. Therefore, M is greater than 2j minus 3. Hence, this is a redundant truss. This type of truss is a redundant truss. Okay. So, number of members required provided is more than a requirement. Therefore, it is a redundant truss. So, that means it becomes a stable structure. The stability will be more. The redundant trusses does not collapse under loading. Okay, so these types of trusses will not collapse under loading and they are stable. But as members are more than 2j minus 3, we cannot find all the member forces. Okay, so therefore it becomes statically indeterminate structure. Okay, so perfect and deficient trusses are determinate structures. Okay, and perfect and redundant trusses are stable trusses. Okay, stable structures. Okay, and they will not collapse. Okay, whereas deficient truss is unstable structure. Okay, so then we have provided one extra member. So number of members are 6, requirement is 5, but that means we have provided one additional extra member. Why we have provided this extra member means, so to maintain alignment of two members during construction. Okay, so either this may be a redundant member or we can take this as the redundant member. Okay, so one redundant member may be provided to maintain the alignment of the other members, two members during construction. Okay, and also to increase stability during construction as well as during loading. So as this additional member provides stability, so it increases the stability of the structure, and to maintain stability during loading as well. Okay, so that is what it is already mentioned here. So to prevent buckling of compression members, and then to provide support if the applied loading is changed. Suppose we have analyzed the structure by considering the load is acting at this point. Okay, so maybe after some time the loading position may change. Okay, then these redundant members will provide additional support. Okay, and to act as backup members in case some members fail or require strengthening. So this additional member will act as a backup member when one of the members fails. So this will provide the strength to maintain its stability. Okay, so that is why we provide redundant members. So but when we provide these redundant members, that means when we provide additional members than the requirement, the analysis becomes difficult, but it is possible. Okay, so next we'll move to the assumptions made in the analysis. So in the analysis of plane trusses, certainly in any theories there will be some assumptions. Okay, so in the analysis of plane trusses, some assumptions are made. What are those assumptions? Means members of truss are connected at their ends and by frictionless pins. Okay, so the members load in truss are applied only at the joints. Let us take this example. Okay, so you can observe this is a truss, okay, wherein the members are connected at the ends only. They are not connected in between. Okay, so they are connected at the ends only, and the loads are applied at the joints only, not at any intermediate point. Okay, so that is the another assumption. Okay, and then members are straight and are subjected to axial forces. So these members are straight, so they will not buckle during the loading process. Okay, they will not, and they will be subjected to only axial forces. That means they will not be subjected to any moment or shear forces. So this is the axial force. Either it may be a compressive force or it may be a tensile force. Okay, so they will be subjected to only axial forces and they remain straight, okay, during the loading process. That is the one more assumption. Members deformation are small and negligible. Suppose this deformation, members deformation is very small and we can neglect it, that is negligible. Okay, so let us assume, so this is the original shape of the truss. Okay, so after the loading it may deform like this, but this deformation is very small. That is the meaning. Okay, so we will neglect that deformation. Okay, the self weight of the members is negligible, as we have already seen the how the members or the sections of members. Okay, so when we compare the whole structure, the individual elemental weights are neglected. Self weight of these members are neglected. Okay, and then no effect of bending on members even if weight is considered. So that means bending moment or bending of deformation like this, bending of this member due to loading is not considered. Okay, is not, there is no effect of the bending. The cross sectional of the members is uniform. That means there will not be any change in the cross section of the entire member. Okay, so there will not be any warping of the section during the loading. So if I section is taken, it remains I and it maintains its cross section throughout the length. That is the meaning. The member center lines are concurrent at the joints. So suppose if you consider this joint, so if you draw the center lines of these points, okay, so they will meet at this point only. So hence it becomes a concurrent. They forms a concurrent force system. So same thing if you take an example. So if these are the center lines of the members, individual members, and this is the gusset plate. Okay, so the forces, axial forces acting at these members, they act along the center line and they form a concurrent force system. Okay, that is the assumption. Okay, these are the assumptions made in the analysis of plane trusses. So next we will move to the methods of analysis. What are the different methods of analysis? For your syllabus we have got two methods, that is method of joints and method of sections. Okay, and we have got one more method, that is graphical method also, but for your syllabus it is restricted to method of joints and sections. So let us consider one by one method of joints. As the name itself suggests, it is concentrating on joints of a truss. So how to proceed with this method means, first we have to verify the stability and determinacy of the given structure. First you find M is equal to 2j minus 3 or not. If the truss is stable, then and determinate, then proceed to the next step. What is the next step? This is the given member. Let us assume this is the given truss. Okay, let us find the determinacy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 joints are there. So 2 5s are 10 minus 3 7. So M is qualifying with 2j minus 3. So hence it becomes stable and determinate structure. Next step is to find support reactions using the equations of equilibrium. So here we have a hinged support and this is a roller support. Therefore the reactive components will be like this. So using the equations of equilibrium we will find the reactions. Okay, reaction components at the ends, hinged end as well as at the roller end. Next, method of joints means a virtual cut is made around a joint and the cut portion is isolated as a free body diagram. Okay, so we'll assume that if this structure is in equilibrium, then each joint of the structure is also in equilibrium. Okay, that is the assumption. Okay, so then to find the member forces, okay, we will make a virtual cut around a joint. So at this joint like this, at this joint like this. Okay, so it need not be, it may be in any fashion, the cut may be in any fashion, and we will call it as free body diagram. Okay, so if you draw the free body diagram of this joint, it will be like this: force along this member, force along this member, and the force along this member. And if you draw free body diagram of this joint, so member, these two are these members, horizontal members, and the reaction and the loading, this is the applied loading. Okay, so this is the free body diagram. We have drawn a virtual cut like this and we have shown forces like this. Okay, initially we will assume that all members are in tension. So all the members will experience tensile force. That is one more assumption. Okay, and if you consider the free body diagram of this joint, it will be like this. So like this you have to go on drawing the free body diagram of individual joints and then apply the conditions of equilibrium to obtain these unknowns. Okay, so that is what I have told. All members are in tension. So the free body diagram will be drawn assuming that all members are in tension. So when we assume the members are in tension, we will write the arrow mark outwards. Okay, so as it forms a concurrent force system. Okay, so this is a concurrent force system. Okay, so how many equations of equilibrium we will be having for a concurrent force system? We will have two equations of equilibrium, that is sigma fx equals 0 and sigma fy equals 0. So two equations are there. So how many maximum unknowns can be there? 2. Okay, so therefore we have to select a joint in such a way that the minimum number of unknowns are there, which should not be more than 2. Okay, so when we start the analysis, first you cannot start with this joint. Okay, so there are all the unknowns, all forces will be unknown, 4 forces are unknown, or you cannot start from this joint. Here 3 unknowns are there. Either you can start from this joint where 2 members are meeting, hence 2 unknowns will be there, or you can start from this joint where here also 2 unknowns are there. Okay, like this you have to judge, you have to select a joint in such a way that there are only 2 unknowns or 2 members are meeting, so that we can apply 2 equations of equilibrium. Okay, so that is what, using the equilibrium equations sigma fx equals 0 and sigma fy equals 0, find the unknown member forces. Once you apply this equations of equilibrium, you will be finding the forces in these 2 members. Okay, next you have to proceed in such a way that you have to select a joint in such a way that there are only 2 members, 2 unknown members are there. Okay, so after C you cannot jump to B because 3 unknowns are there. Next consideration is joint D, so wherein you can have 2 unknowns. This is known and remaining these two are unknown. So next after C you have to proceed for joint D. Like that you have to go on for the remaining joints. So continue the analysis by proceeding to the next joint with two or fewer unknown member forces. So that is one. After C you have to go for D and then you can go for E, okay, or you can go for B, both at E as well as at once you apply at D, so you will be finding member forces in these two members, okay. Then if you go for joint E you can find these two members, and if you apply at joint B there will be also two unknowns. Either you can select B or E, okay, whichever you feel easier you can opt that joint, okay. So that is the procedure to find the forces in members using method of joints. And last, at the end you have to tabulate the member forces, okay. That is the procedure for method of joints. Next we will move for method of sections. So in this the first step is same, verify the stability and determinacy of a structure. If the structure is stable and determinate, then proceed to the next step. The same thing, will proceed to the next step by finding the support reactions using the equations of equilibrium, okay. And then an imaginary cutting line called a section is drawn through a truss such that it cuts through members whose axial forces are desired, okay. In method of joints we will be using a imaginary cut at the joint, okay, whereas in sections we used to pass a section through this truss, okay, through this truss, so that it cuts the required members. Suppose in this problem we want to find member forces in ED, BD and BC, then we have to pass a section like this. We have to pass a section virtual cut like this. So this cut has to cut the members whose member forces has to be determined, okay. Suppose if I want to find forces in DE, BD, BE and AB, then you have to pass a section like this, okay. So depending upon the members where you need the member forces, you have to pass a cut like this, okay. And this section divides the given truss into two parts, the left part and the right part, okay. You can write like this. This is the right part and this is the left part. This is the free body diagram. This is what we call it as free body diagram of the left part and the right part. To find the member forces, you can consider either the left part or the right part. So whichever will have lesser computation, you consider that part, okay. So for this instance we can consider the right part, so that there is only one reactive component is here, whereas if you consider right part, two reactions as well as one applied loading is also there. Therefore to eliminate some computation, to reduce the computation, will consider the right part, okay. So you can observe here, so the members only two are meeting at one point and these two are meeting at one point, okay. So all forces are not meeting at a single point, so that means this force system will form what type of force system? It forms a non-concurrent force system. So non-concurrent means what? How many equations we have? 3 equations of equilibrium, that is sigma fx equals 0, sigma fy equals 0 and sigma m equals 0. So that is what, select either part of the truss for the determination of member forces, okay. So I can select left or right part. A section need not be a straight section. Here I have drawn a straight section. You can draw it like this, anything, in any fashion you can draw a cut, but it has to pass through the members whose member forces are required, okay. And then more than one section can be used to solve a given problem. You can draw any number of sections so that forces in all the members can be found, okay. So as I already told, this forms a non-concurrent force system. Therefore, the member axial forces can be found by using the conditions of equilibrium, that is sigma fx equals 0, fy equals 0 and sigma m equals 0. So three unknowns, three equations are there. So maximum unknowns are 3. Only a maximum of 3 unknowns can be there. In such a way you have to pass a section. Suppose if we have one more member like this, you cannot pass a section like this where it cuts more than 3 unknowns. Okay, that is the limitation. Okay, in joints you can have 2 unknowns, whereas in sections you can have a maximum of 3 unknowns. Okay, so either you can apply this fx, fy and m equals 0, or you can apply sigma m equals 0 by selecting a convenient point to find the unknown member forces. Okay, suppose you can apply sigma md is equal to 0, so that you can find moment of these two forces about d will be 0, but moment of this fcb around d, you can have this moment and you can find the force of this fcb. Okay, and if you take moment at this point, okay, if you consider moment at this point, so db and cb, they are passing through the same point, therefore moment of these two forces will be 0. So we can have moment of de, so we can find force in member de. Okay, and then to find this db, you can apply any other condition of equilibrium. Okay, so that this fdb can be formed, because we have already reduced 2 unknowns by applying sigma m at d and at b. We can find the remaining 1 unknown like that. Okay, need not go for this fx, fy and sigma m. You can apply sigma m at any different convenient points to reduce the unknowns. That is also correct. Okay, next, the same thing, all members are in tension. So initially we will assume that all members are in tension. If you obtain a positive answer, then the assumed direction, that is tensile force, what we have assumed, that is correct. If you obtain a negative answer, that means the member is experiencing a compressive force. Next, let us take the differences between the method of joints and the sections. So this is method of joints and sections. Equilibrium of a joint is considered. In method of joints, equilibrium of a joint is considered, whereas in method of section, equilibrium of a section is considered. Okay, in method of joints, it forms a concurrent force system at the joint considered, whereas in method of sections, it forms a non-concurrent force system at the section considered. Okay, so number of unknowns cannot be more than 2 here, whereas in sections, number of unknowns cannot be more than 3. Okay, equilibrium equations to be used are sigma fx equals 0, sigma and sigma fy equals 0, whereas equilibrium equations are sigma fx equals 0, fy equals 0 and sigma m equals 0. That means 2 equilibrium conditions at method of joints and 3 equilibrium conditions at method of sections. A virtual cut is made around a joint, whereas a virtual cut is drawn through a truss. Okay, and method of joints is suitable when forces in all the members are required. Okay, when we need forces in all the members, we'll go for method of joints, and method of sections is suitable when forces in particular members are required. So this method is a fast process to find some forces in some particular methods, on some particular members. Suppose if I want forces in say these 3 members, and if I proceed with method of joints, then I have to first go for this joint and then I have to go for this joint. Okay, I have to apply twice, whereas in method of sections, if I consider only one section, that gives the forces in the members. That is the meaning. Okay, it is suitable for particular when forces in particular members are required. Okay, so these are the differences between method of joints and sections. Okay, so that is for today's session. So in today's session, we have learned about the definition of a truss, types of trusses, okay, assumptions made in the analysis of trusses, and different methods of analysis, okay, and the differences between between those two methods as well, okay. In the next session, we'll take up numerical examples on method of joints and method of section, that is how to analyze a given truss using method of joints and method of sections. Thank you.